Future Proof is sponsored by Equipping Young Adults for Life, inspiring student resilience, championing hope. Hello and welcome to Future Proof. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarah Hopwood, as I continue these programmes looking at how emotional intelligence and indeed other problem-solving skills and tools can really help us plan well for the future ahead and feel equipped, if you like, for a good future ahead. We are in very strange and different times, difficult times at the moment for many, and how we think will really determine how well we do in the future moving forward. A few programmes back, I went through a list that Joyce Meyer has compiled of negative mindsets that don't help us. And I've already looked at the mindset, everybody else is better than me. That is not true. So really be careful about what you believe, because whatever you believe will actually be true. Whatever you believe, you will live out to. So if you keep believing that somebody or other people are better than you, then that will be the result that you get. And I'll never forget years ago when I co-presented with Sally Gunnell, and she was talking about how she identified the time that she lost a race. She was an Olympian, for those of you who remember, and a hurdler. And she always said she never ever lost the race on the finishing line. She could remember back a thought that she might have had, a glance across thinking that person is better than me. And she remembered back and would identify, obviously with help and what have you, that she lost the race with that thought, not losing the race actually on the finishing line. So be very careful about saying to yourself that other people are better than you. Celebrate good stuff that other people do. Our job is just to be the best that we can be. And once Sally kind of got that into her mindset, she very much reflects on how that changed her whole running. Her belief systems changed, that she was good, and she stopped looking and comparing to other people, and she started winning. So remember, she always says she could identify when she lost a race, and very often it was going back to a thought that she had whilst running the race, when she might glance across and think that someone else was better than her. So we've covered that one. And then I also looked at self-esteem and the importance of believing that we can be, if you like, a 10 out of 10, that we don't damn ourselves and condemn ourselves for mistakes that we might have made, or indeed other people. Conviction is good. Conviction brings us to a grinding halt sometimes, where we can go, hang on a minute, the way that I'm thinking and what I'm doing is wrong. It's not serving me, it's not serving other people. Or indeed identify that in people around you and just say, hang on a minute, the way that you're treating me, or what you're saying and doing is not serving me, it's not good. And so that conviction is quite good at creating change. So what I want to look at now is the sentence that my future is determined by my past. This is a negative mindset that really does not serve us. And I'm going to start looking at thought processes that can help change that. But just to remind you, last time when I looked at self-esteem, we talked about 4 babies, different babies being born in a ward, and all of them were classed as a 10 out of 10 because they were very special human beings with a heart and a soul. They were living and they're breathing. And that's exactly what you're doing today. So that's how you can start thinking of yourself and raising your self-esteem based on the fact that you are a living, breathing human being. And once you can elevate, if you like, the number you give yourself, you can then start living to that number. And I told a story about a lady who at one point had only given herself a 3 out of 10. And we were able to address the way that she was thinking, that really changed her thinking, moved her up from a 3 therapy, and she started making much better decisions. And to help us make more and better decisions, I talked about getting in what we call Coveys Rocks. These are key things that are important to you and your world, things that you don't want to lose or let go. And it can be anything from spending proper time with your family to even living out core values, for example, of honesty and integrity, and catching yourself out or getting out of the way of yourself, so that you make sure that you not only make good decisions that are healthy and good ones, but you enable yourself to live to those decisions as well. So today I want to talk about the negative mindset which we can all have, where it says my past or my future is determined by my past, and that is not true. Whatever happened in the past does not determine your future, but there are things that we need to do to adjust that thinking. The first thing is we are never determined by other people's opinions about us. If we like those opinions, we can be inspired and live to them, but we are only what we ever answer to. So if you have been having negative things said around you, or what I use that phrase over you, particularly if you're a young child or you remember back in your youth of being things said over you, that is to do with the person who's speaking about you. That is not to do with you. So detach from that. If you like, put those words said over you, take them away and put them on a desk or something and remove them from you. And it can really, really help. So it means that you have to change your mindset moving forwards, because whatever you repeatedly think about will manifest, whatever you repeatedly think about will strengthen and grow. So if you keep repeatedly going through negative mindsets, always telling the same old story of what happened in your childhood, what somebody did to you, what somebody called you, if you keep repeating that, then what you're doing is endorsing it in your own head, as well as repeatedly telling the world what was said over you or what you believed you were, and it won't help you move forward. So it's a bit like if you're on a diet, rather than saying I'm going to stop eating potatoes, crisps, biscuits, donuts, I'm going to stop this and stop that. All your brain hears is potatoes, crisps, donuts, and so it will try and get it back as soon as it can. So the language moving forward, which helps determining a good future as well, is to say I'm looking forward to eating more salad, I'm really enjoying vegetables, Brussels sprouts are more palatable to me, those sort of things. So you only talk, so the brain just hears salad, Brussels sprouts, vegetables, and so that's where the brain will focus. That's what you'll end up eating more of, and it will help you lose your weight. So it's the same kind of psychology, if you like. So the first thing I would say is stop talking about your past. For many of you, that's now boring, it's dead wood, and you're not serving yourself by talking about it. So talk about what you want in the future. In these strange times, we're coming out of lockout now, there are many people who entered lockdown who were believing they couldn't run their businesses, believing maybe they couldn't cut their own hair. I've been cutting my own hair. They believed that they, I don't know, couldn't get out, or couldn't this or couldn't that. And many of you watching in this phase, you have proved yourselves wrong, and that's been out of desperation, that's been out of not having another choice anymore, or maybe the people who maybe used to do things for you aren't there to do it now. So it's made you push through, and I'm not saying it solved all the problems, I'm not saying that, but maybe you've done things that you believed that you couldn't do. And that's where we need to get to first, is changing that mindset. So it's a bit like if you put your fingers around my throat and stop the air. At one point I might have said, oh, that's okay, I'm fine, I can't get your grip off of my throat. But if you squeeze too tight and I'm gagging for air, I think you and I would both be amazed at what I do end up trying to do to get any hands off of my throat so that I can get air. And it's that high need and energy for change that drives change. If you don't, or if you're struggling to change your mindset, then maybe there's not a compelling enough reason to actually start the process. So sometimes it's actually not about you. Maybe it could be, remember, your children are watching or people that you love and care for are watching you and they're learning and they're copying from you the whole time. So maybe the compelling enough reason is suddenly you realise that people are doing exactly the same as you, and you in your heart saying, I don't want you to have the life that I've had. I don't want you to suffer the way that I suffered. So maybe that's the compelling enough reason to say, do you know, in order to help them, I need to change my own behaviour, and that will help. So what we need, and I'm going to talk about it more in the second half, is something called the DVP. The D is dissatisfaction. And there's been a lot of dissatisfaction through lockdown where people haven't had what they wanted. So then the vision is, I desperately need a haircut. Or maybe you're dating online. I can't sit there with long hair. So the vision now is actually quite compelling. So then you come up with a plan, and all of a sudden you work out how you can actually get a better haircut than you have at the moment, kind of thing. I'm going to say more about this in the second half.